Okay, so we should be live. So welcome everybody to Love Speaks Love. I am Denise, your host, and my lovely guest this week, I'm very excited about this, is Erin Tietz. Welcome, sweetheart.
Hello, and thank you for having me today.
It is my pleasure. I feel like I've spent so much time with you over the last August, I think it was, that I first connected with your work. Yeah, I've probably watched more of your videos than most people because I'm fascia stretching every morning. So sometimes I do it from the courses that we've done, and sometimes I just like put YouTube on and take it from there. So yeah, I feel like I spent a lot more time with you than you will feel that you've spent with me.
I like that.
So I'm just while I'm waiting for people to gather, I'm just gonna share it to a few places. Mm-hmm. Just bear with me a second. This is where you need a producer.
I know the feeling.
Yeah, exactly. Are you using something like Restream? Do you share to a few places at once?
I'm starting to, but I need to get my technologies in order for that. But I'm trying to do YouTube and Instagram at the same time on Tuesdays now.
Yeah.
But I have to improve upon that a little bit.
Yeah, I think there's some of the live broadcasting softwares that do that for you. But Zoom that I use doesn't. You can only share to one place, which is a shame, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it's that nerve thing of trying something new when you're actually live.
Yeah. Yes, I know that feeling too.
Okay. Alrighty. So we normally start Love Speaks Love with a little meditation, or more of a visualization, really, just to kind of give it a bit of a ceremony feel, and just to gather us all together and to connect all of our hearts. So without further ado, let us start. So I invite us all to bring our awareness to our hearts in the middle of our chest. And let us all breathe love into our beautiful hearts. So breathing love in and breathing out anything of the day so far, or the week, or the day ahead, or the week. Anything that might be preventing you from being in this now moment. And making any sound that you wish on your out breath. And feeling all of our hearts together in the field of love. All of our hearts as one in one unified field of love. And extending our heart awareness out now to the heart of Gaia. Feeling ourselves fully connected with Mother Earth. And feeling Gaia's love for all of us, and her appreciation and her gratitude for all that we are and all that we do. And extending that heart awareness out now to the heart of the sun. Connecting in with those beautiful solar energies. Feeling those solar energies moving into our bodies, into every cell. And extending that heart awareness out to the heart of Source, Creator. and feeling those beautiful creator energies in our hearts, in every cell. And as we bring our awareness back to our heart space, within our hearts is a still point. So let us just intend to be held within that still point. Breathing love into our hearts and breathing out love now. And surrounding our hearts is a layer of tissue called the pericardium. But this layer of tissue is actually fascia. And it connects to the fascia network throughout the body. So let us just visualize that we're surrounded by golden light. And you can add to this golden light any color that you wish, any color that your body might feel helpful at this time. And as we breathe that light into our bodies, our fascia network that is like fiber optics, the whole fascia network is now lighting up. The light moves all the way to the top of the head, the tips of the fingers, and the tips of the toes. And I invite us to intend that this light and love from our hearts goes into any organs that we wish to send it to, any places of tension within our bodies, any muscles that we may know are tense. Let's just send it to our neck and shoulders. And just intending that that light go to any areas of the fascia network that might be constricted or scarred, or where the energy just isn't flowing quite as strongly as it could do. So if your eyes are closed, just opening them whenever you're ready. Taking a few long and slow deep breaths. Maybe taking a sip of water if you have some with you. And feeling fully centered and aligned in our physical bodies, while still feeling that grounded connection to the heart of the earth. Oh, that feels better.
That felt great.
So for those of you that don't know Erin, I came across her work. I think I probably mentioned the word fascia to somebody that was overheard in the networks. So I started to get adverts on my Facebook feed for the Fascia Miracle. That's where I first came into contact with you, which I did that course last year and found it really helpful. It works on all different parts of the body. And then just felt that I wanted more, really. So I searched you out, found you on YouTube, first of all, and then Googled you and found your website. And I've done your net course and we've had a one-on-one as well. So first of all, thank you for all the work that you're putting out. And it's a real pleasure to have you here. I'm really honored to have you here on the show. So welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here, and that just fills me up to hear about your journey with all of this, and that it's played such a positive role in your life. So that makes me so grateful and happy.
And every day, like I fascia stretch in the morning. I'd like to do it every night as well. Sometimes I just forget and crawl into bed. But it feels weird to not start my day stretching my body. Mm-hmm. But I'd love to hear, for those people that don't know, I'd love to hear a little bit of your story, your background, how you actually got into fascia yourself.
Yes, I'm happy to share. So my story began as a young dancer and an athlete, and growing up performing and dancing and using my body. And I started to have my initial problems in about 8th grade. I started pulling my right hamstring when I was actually doing hurdles, and which is kind of funny because I'm very short, so it's funny visual to see me like leaping over them. But so I pulled it, and then I kept pulling it over and over again. So it started just as kind of a benign thing. Many people, I pulled my muscle here, I strained this muscle there. So it started just as that, but then the pattern of that continued. So I kept doing it over and over again. And as I continued through my dance career, I started developing chronic pain because of that, and then problems elsewhere. I would fall out of my left ankle. It was my right hamstring I was pulling. I would start to get some headaches and even digestive issues at the same time. And eventually that led to chronic pain and decrease of functionality of my body, which then prompted me to discontinue dancing, which was my passion and my love. And the pain ensued, and it continued, and it was almost like a zigzag effect, where it was my right hamstring, then my left lower back started to bother me, and then my right rib cage, and then my left neck. And I started getting chronic headaches all the time, and basically just felt crummy every single day. My background in education is in health science and holistic nutrition as my master's. And I worked and lived in New York City for 10 years as a medical exercise specialist in outpatient rehab. So I had therapies at my fingertips to help me with my chronic pain. And so I began the journey of trying to heal, and I practiced every modality you can think of, from Novocaine injections, cortisone injections, Ionto, massage, manual therapy. Nothing was helping. I continued to feel worse and frustrated, and did MRIs. And in those MRIs, it showed that I had chronic buildup of internal scar tissue off my ischial tuberosity, which is your butt bone, on my right side, significant, and a little bit on my left as well. And that was kind of where I was at. That's what I knew. And at that point, the doctor said to me, Erin, there's really nothing that you can do for this. You have scar tissue, and it's deep inside, and the only way to change that is with surgery, and then you'll have more scar tissue. And so I felt very defeated, but I didn't allow myself to acknowledge or honor my pain, because I worked very closely at the time with, and I still do, with multiple sclerosis. So I worked with people that had, to me, much greater struggles and challenges, and some that weren't able to walk. And so I didn't honor, and felt like I didn't have the space to complain about my pain. And so I gave up. And that was very uncharacteristic of me to stop trying. But I had tried for about 15 years, and then felt like I hit the end of the road. And looking back now, I really realized that a big part of me had changed along the way. And my friends were wondering kind of what was going on with me. And so it was a real struggle, both emotionally and physically. And so jump ahead, after I lived in New York, I moved back to where I live now, Minneapolis, Minnesota, got married, had my first child, which was an emergency C-section, which plays a role into this more so now as I'm furthering my education of fascia and scar tissue. And then I had a scheduled C-section for my second pregnancy, but in the interim time between those, I had discovered what is referred to a lot of different things, but resistance stretching or activated stretching through the Genius of Flexibility in Santa Barbara. And I was intrigued. It was one of those serendipitous moments where I'm on a plane with my family. I was going through a difficult moment at that time, and my husband just gave me some space to hang out with our 1-year-old. And he's like, just relax on the plane. I'll walk him up and down the aisles. And I opened up an Oprah magazine, and there was an article about resistance stretching. And I saw that they do certifications in New York. And so I'm like, oh, I'm going to do this. I need something to just zhuzh up what I'm teaching my MS clients. And I can go visit New York and see my friends. And I landed, first thing I did was get on the website, and I saw that they had a certification for level 1 in like a month. And I signed up and I went. And I walked in, and they said that this work helped to decrease dense fascia in the body, built up fascia, and clear out scar tissue. And in my head, I was like, well, good luck, because I've been trying for 15 years to do that. And so when I went in, I wasn't thinking about my own healing journey. I was thinking about learning and being able to give back to my clients new information and education. But I let my instructors know that I have this chronically torn hamstring and built up scar tissue. And halfway through day 1, we were going into a hamstring series of partner work, so working on someone else. And my instructor, she's like, let me just work on you for 10 minutes. And so she'd had her hands on body so much, so she knew how to kind of read the tissues in a way. So I lay down. I'm 5 months pregnant at this point. I have people holding their hands on my shoulders and my hips. And she does 3 different fascia activations for my right hamstring and the attachments at the ischial tuberosity. And the first time she did 1 rep, my eyes just lit up. I'm like, oh my gosh. And it felt like she'd reached in to the one spot I had wished every needle or finger or human could find and push that button, but couldn't quite get there. And she was doing it from the outside, but my body was working from the inside out. So the contraction of my muscles was reaching that scar tissue, and then the movement was changing it. So in one particular movement, every rep felt different. And it felt like, if this is my ischial tuberosity and this is my scar tissue, it felt like, I use this description, I should probably think of a different one, very old, dried duct tape being ripped off my bone. That sounds painful, but I knew not to work through pain because of my physical therapy background, and it wasn't the same thing. It was something I never felt before. It was something that was like a light bulb going off, and I started crying, shaking, emotionally crying, not because of the pain. And I stood up and I bent over to touch my toes, and it was the first time that I could remember that I didn't have any pain. That pain that had been with me every single moment of the day wasn't there. And I walked around the streets of New York for an hour because we broke for lunch, and I just cried and cried and cried. And people, because I'm pregnant, are like, are you okay? Are you okay? I'm like, I'm great. And I walked through the city that I loved so desperately and lived for 10 years with this feeling and knowing that everything in my life had changed. And since that point, I've just dove in, I've learned, I've practiced, I've experienced, I've done this work. I'm at parties sometimes, and someone will be like, oh, my shoulder. I'm like, oh, sit down. And it's I know it is my forever calling. And so I've evolved the work in my teachings, which was foundational for me. And I've peppered in my own background in Pilates, spine therapy, nutrition, and have my own approach to it with the foundational idea of how it's different than stretching. So fascia stretching is a good way to say it because people can relate to it and it makes sense. But there is some controversy over, is the fascia stretching or not. But basically, yes, it's a new way to move the body to reach the connective tissue and fascial system, opposite of what traditional stretching is known for.
It feels to me like one of the things that it does, even even if the term fascia stretching isn't quite it, I mean, I've seen images. There was someone recently, Jed somebody I think he was called, that showed that fascia does stretch.
Yeah.
But it feels like it stretches the network, if that makes sense. It feels like it extends the network into places where it's been contracted into. Yeah. And my story with fascia, I had an injury. I slid down some stairs when I was 17 at school and then went into nursing. So I feel like it never fully healed, displaced my sacroiliac joint. But also as a nurse and where I was in my life, I was very, very stressed. And I received a diagnosis of fibromyalgia in my 30s, but this had been going on for years, really, for probably 20 years. And I feel that what was happening was that my fascia was very contracted, which was contracting the muscles and the tendons, but it wasn't the tendons that were the problem, it was the fascia. And that's what I'm learning now. And one of the things I find when I'm when I'm working with my fascia is, so for example, I might stretch the fascia in my ankle and then I'll stand up or I'll do something different and it pops in the back of my neck.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can feel that, and let's call it fascia stretching, that stretching the fascia in one part of the body is doing stuff in other parts of the body because it is one complete network. But also the pops in my body are different. It almost feels like something that was really squashed down is starting to open. And as it opens, it gets a little pocket of air that then just, you know, like bubble wrap, it just kind of pops. But the sound of the pops is different. It feels more spacious inside. It feels more liquid almost inside. Like it just feels different. The pops feel different.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. And yeah, it is a different, sometimes it can feel like an adjustment if someone's done chiropractic, but it does sound different and it isn't quite the same, but it's almost like your body's natural adjustment that will happen on its own because of the gentle nudging of the fascial matrix. Mm-hmm. Helps to allow that space to come back.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And after, say, for example, if it's work that you're doing in your shoulders or, you know, somewhere around there, axilla or wherever, there's a difference in the energy flow in my body. I can feel like a whirring. That's it's hard to put it into words, but there's a sensation in my body that's kind of like that. Like you can feel that there's a difference. And I'm more toned as well. I wrote a few things down of the improvements, like I'm more toned in my body and I've got greater flexibility and more strength. So I've sprained my ankles, both sides, which I think is due to contraction in the fascia because the tendons didn't have that flexibility. The tendons and the ligaments in the ankles didn't have that flexibility. My IT band was really stuck and the messages weren't fully getting down either. So in some of the stretches, you'll say activate and, you know, your brain will go activate and then you're like, nothing's happening.
Nothing's happening.
So for me, if I put my hand there and go, you know, it's like telling the brain, touching your skin where the nerve endings are, and kind of like telling your brain and your muscle what you want to do. And then it starts to kick in. And that's been in a few different places, even in a thigh as well, I've realized. My quads, I think, were overworking for everything.
Yep, very, very common, actually. Hamstrings become dormant. It's more specifically the lateral hamstrings, and usually one side more than the other. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's almost like that neural circuit in the communication circuit is disrupted due to dense fascia, scar tissue, somewhere in the pathway that's almost acting like a roadblock. Yeah. And the cue of the hand there is so brilliant because that sensation, because we have sensory nerves in our fascia receptors and pain as well. But then you can make that connection more clearly. But it can be a different story on each side of the body and what the experience is, how it's happening, and how it feels. Definitely true.
You mentioned earlier that you were having digestive issues as well. I'm quite intrigued by, because the fascia not only surrounds the muscles, but it surrounds all the organs of the body as well. I'm quite intrigued as to, because fascia doesn't show up on MRI scans, it doesn't show up on CT scans or X-ray. So we don't really know what somebody's fascia is like to an organ that's not doing very well. And I have a feeling that the fascia might well be, you know, kind of contracted or a little bit dense around places.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, there's, I mean, the research is very young when it comes to fascia. Around 2007 and on is when people are like, let's really find out what's happening here. Because before it was kind of thought as an innate tissue that didn't have much more functionality. And during dissections, oftentimes it was discarded to get to what the good stuff, the bones and the muscles and the tendons and ligaments and organs. But now that story is changing, and it's changing quickly, which is great because as you've experienced, when you do take a different approach to using the body movement for fascia concentrated movements, the benefits that we're hoping to get with stretching are actually starting to happen then.
Yeah.
And so what that ties into with the organs is through embryology and the study of how we develop as humans, there's a lot of folding as cells divide, and these folds end up creating fascial planes or trains or meridians. So there can be quite a beautiful connection between traditional Chinese medicine and fascia bodywork, much like if you use acupuncture in one area of the body to affect a particular organ. There's a book that I've read called The Spark in the Machine, and it talks about this embryological development and how they've found that there is electric conductivity of the fascial system. And within these trains, then you could associate a particular fascia stretch with a meridian, and that meridian to an organ system.
Yeah, I like kinesiology when I first moved to Australia, so that makes a lot of sense to me, because all the muscles, represent different organs. And to me, the fascia feels like the missing link between the energy system of the body and the physical. It's almost like that space between. And it's been really helpful when I'm visualizing, because I've done energy work on my own body for years and years and years, 21 years. In 3 days, it's almost 2 days, it's almost my anniversary. And this is like the missing link. It gives me a different visual as well when I'm working with energy in the body. It just feels like this has been missing from my work. And it's interesting you say about Chinese medicine, because they've really known about the fascia. They might not have called it that, but they've known about it forever. And I feel that the strength of those masters, they may not, have the muscle strength, but it's the fascia strength. I'm sure that it's the fascia strength that keeps them, so strong that you can't push them over, so strong that somebody twice their size can't kind of push them over.
Fascia currently is known to be 6 to 10 times stronger than muscle. And then if it's dense and constricted fascia, it's like steel. It's very, very, very strong. And so, yes, it plays a massive role. It's kind of like our body's scaffolding or our soft skeleton that's really, really strong. One thing I always like to say is if you take away everything, your skin, your muscles, your bones, your organs, you would have the exact same shape because the fascia is that intricate throughout the entire body. And when I work with MS, in particular, I use it to help to decrease spasticity in the human body and then also to provide that scaffolding when the muscles aren't working as well as they should. For instance, if someone is sitting and they want to stand up, there's a way that you can load by doing what's called a rebound, or there's fascial recoiling, which is a little bit different, but you basically load the muscles first by contracting them, then that will help to gather the fascia to help the muscles create movement. And it's been really, really amazing to see how that works. I've had one particular client. She's doing amazing work, and we're doing it all virtual. We were in person and now virtual because it's working so well. Continue to improve and going up the stairs, and she kind of will load her muscles, get the fascia involved, and use that to help with the stairs. So it's for me, a lot of my evolution with the work too is teaching, trying, and seeing how it's working for other people in different ways. So yeah, it is a very strong tissue in the body that I think is going to keep presenting itself with more benefits as we understand it better.
And more nerve endings. Is it 6 to 10 times more nerve endings within the fascia than anywhere else?
Yeah.
And that it's our largest sensory organ.
Yes, it is.
And more sensitive than the eyes, more sensitive than the ears, and it's always working. Even when we're asleep, lying, on our back or on our side, our fascia is still responding to the pressure on the body and changing. Like it's such a beautiful organ. I was blown away watching the living fascia videos of how it's so beautiful, and how, because I said at the beginning it's like fiber optics, and it kind of is and it isn't. It is in the way that it carries light and energy along, but it's not like a tube on the outside and the stuff on the inside. It's like it's all one thing, and the liquid sometimes runs down, kind of the outside of the tube, but it's not really a tube. It's like, yeah, it's amazing, and it's solid and it's liquid at the same time.
Yeah, the extracellular matrix and the fluid of the fascial matrix. I'm starting to understand it more. I'm learning more. So, but what I love about that, and when I'm describing for people, like why does it feel better immediately when I'm doing this? And one explanation that I'll give them, for example, like the bicep, the fascia we want it to slide and glide. So whether it's a muscle fiber here wrapped in fascia here, we want that sliding and gliding, because there's no friction then. It's just smooth and easy. But when it gets dehydrated or stuck and then it no longer slides and glide, that would be where you would feel achy and stiff when you wake up in the morning. When there's less sliding glide and more friction, you don't feel as good. And so let's say under here, let's just talk about, the bicep here. So let's say here's a lot of tissues. There's superficial fascia, deep fascia, and it reaches in and it permeates muscle. So it not only encompasses muscle, but it dives in and it wraps around every single muscle fiber. And then that will pull out and extend into tendon. So when you get sticky and stuck in friction here, and then you go into a fascia activation, it takes that dehydrated fascia where maybe the fluid's dispersing more here, or it's more here, or it's maybe closer to the joint. When you do the fascia activation, where it can help to disperse the hydration of the fascia more evenly through the entire muscle tissue itself. And that increased lubrication allows for the sliding glide to improve.
And I think applying a little pressure, what's the name of the cells? Something sites, fibrocytes, I think.
Fibrocytes?
Yeah, and they're like little snails or little slugs. So they just go along and just, leave this trail of slimy stuff.
Yes, I love that video of that one. It kind of moves around and just leaves stuff behind. Yeah.
Which is amazing. And that's what we need for the lack of, for it not to be friction, for it to be smooth and gliding. And there's even new cells as well, communication cells, telecytes, that they found. Like the study of fascia, I feel there's a lot more to learn, and we're only just beginning with it.
Very true. Yeah. I'm even when I'm out there talking about it, some things I've said like a year ago, I say it differently now because of what I've learned along the way. And so I try to frequently explain. I am always a student, like I said before, because I'm teaching the best of what I'm learning and experiencing and seeing, and then new science comes out. People have different research that they've uncovered different things. So um, it's wonderful to be a part of the infancy of such an amazing trajectory of possibilities with the continued learning of how fascia works in our body.
And it feels, when you you showed me a really good kind of massage where you kind of have a bit of pressure at the front and kind of move your arm back and move your arm a little bit. But even when you're massaging, it's like you can feel the hyaluronic
acid.
Yeah. I think David Lesondak is calling it hyaluronan instead of having the acid on the end, because it's technically not an acid. Mm-hmm. And I've been involved with some skin care stuff, and that's the stuff on your skin that helps you stay young as well. So it comes all the way out onto the skin. And sometimes when you're massaging but moving the muscles as well, you start to feel not quite oily, that's too strong a word, but you start to feel a little bit of that lubrication on the skin, as if it's coming all the way out.
Yeah, I've been doing some work with like the ears and the jaw and the face, and I don't understand that as much yet, but I feel that too. I definitely have that same experience. Mm-hmm.
So tell us about how it works and how it's different to normal stretches.
Sure. So in normal stretching, we use my bicep as an example because you can see it. If we think about the bicep muscle, we think of stretching as lengthening as far as you can. This is where I feel a stretch. And then traditionally, you would maybe hold it for a long period of time, or you take an inhale and on your exhale, try to go a little bit past that point. So you're going to end range and beyond. What ends up happening with that, and where I think people end up getting some discomfort with that and not experiencing benefit, is because they're past their point where their body's able to go. So it can feel like the joint will kind of respond, the tissue responds, saying, no, I don't have that available to me. And then you have to think about the muscle on the opposite side of the body as playing a role in that as well. So with fascia stretching or fascia activations, it's opposite of that. We actually take the muscle into a shortened state, and then fascia needs compression and tension to change. It responds to tension and compression. So to create compression and tension, we contract the muscle against something. So I'm going to take my other hand and I'm going to push my forearm into my hand. So I'm contracting into the shortened bicep, and then movement. So movement is key. You want to keep contracting the bicep as you slowly elongate. And then it basically is the fascia is kind of gathering up, or the muscle is actually gathering up the fascia here. When we shorten it, contract, it kind of holds onto it and it takes it for a ride. So we're elongating the fascial fibers as we move and extend, never going to end range and beyond. So the risk of overstretching isn't there because we don't go to the end range. The benefit happens at the very beginning. But our bodies aren't used to that. Our brain's not used to that. Our brains think we need to feel the stretch in order to become more flexible and improve, anything, decrease risk of injury. But people are finding that's not happening. And so when people start to do fascia activated work, a lot of times I get reported back that I feel more flexible. I don't have as many aches and pains. I don't have that same pain that I've had in the same spot for 20 years. And so all the benefits that we're hoping to get with stretching are actually happening with fascia activated work. And so I really believe it's much safer because there's a lot of vulnerability in joints, and if we're not reading it right, and then that's a part of the nervous system function, because here we have a closed chain circuit, whereas here we do not. We're just open, and then our brains try to figure out, like, is this okay? Is my shoulder in the right place? But when you have the closed chain, you have that continued circuit of communication, so your brain can kind of tell you, and as you practice, it kind of becomes easier for you to make the connection, to understand where maybe the connection's being lost, and so many other things. But basically, I call it the fascia equation, where you shorten the area or muscle of that you're focusing on, contract that muscle or engage, and then move in the opposite direction. So shorten the muscle, activate the muscle, and move in the opposite direction. And I take that equation as the general basis of the work, and I work throughout the entire body. Mm-hmm.
When you're going through the activations, you are very clear as well. You know, you put that foundation in. And one of the things that I like a lot about your work, because I can forget once I start, I'm like, which way am I supposed to be? Which way am I supposed to be like pretending that my muscle's going to activate it? But you're very good at kind of, it's just very clear. And you repeat it for me enough times. And the way I like to do it is really slowly, so that I'm just really feeling the effect of things. That's how it works best for me. And I found in the beginning, my muscles would be really shaky, like really wobbly. And I might have only done one. Mm-hmm. I found if I did, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, I was really quite stiff. The muscle was stiff. So I'd have to really start gently, maybe just doing 1. And even from doing 1, I could feel like the wobble, which suggests the nerve involvement there. And then I like to lie down at the end and just feel into my body and just feel that everything's flowing more, like there's a different flow throughout my system, which feels like it's the fascia actually moving in my body. And sometimes, especially over winter when I wasn't exercising much, I would really like to dance afterwards. Yeah. And kind of just almost let my fascia dance me in the way that it would want to kind of build its own strength.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love it.
Are you able to dance now that you?
Yes. This is my year to get back into it a little bit more, but one of my best friends owns a dance studio in Chicago, and so she does some virtual classes too in her program. But then there's a local studio here that I've gone and taken a class from. But it really still blows my mind when I think about where I was and how I felt in my body and my emotions to be where I am right now. So I started my fascia journey. My daughter's 5.5, so 6 years ago now, maybe 6.5 years ago now. So, and I've literally done it every day since. But one of the things I think was really profound for me, and when I had that healing moment and everything had changed for me, that really was work on scar tissue. And I think it's fair to say quite a difference with this work and how it affects scar tissue versus fascia. And so for me, when that scar tissue changed, it was like the floodgates opened. It was just like energy, nervous system, lymphatic flow, circulatory system. Everything was just like whoosh down my right leg. So that was instantaneous. It was 10 minutes, and like I said, that pain never came back. But what took time was the fascia that was affected by that scar tissue nearby. So my piriformis muscle had become shriveled and dehydrated, almost like a tube rather than a soft, pushy muscle. It became beef jerky versus a steak. And that took time. That took a year or so to evolve and change. But I find that really interesting because some people have an immediate benefit where a pain that they've had is gone forever in one treatment. And usually that's when we're targeting a specific area of known scar tissue. And then for the body to almost have its journey of evolution following that. So then the whole fascia matrix is going to, as the work continues, continue to evolve and reorganize in a way. And new things can come up where all of a sudden, then one area starts to be of more of a focus than the original area. And I call these spirals within the body. So if you can imagine hanging from the ceiling from the top of your head, and I do a lot of postural pattern and body patterning to see where there's rotations and shifts and twists and all of that. But if you're hanging from the string, your body would basically just twist into a spiral depending on where the fascia is pulling on your pelvis, your rib cage. And so that kind of global type of evolution with fascia and how it's pushing and pulling on your joints and bones and everything does take time to evolve. And I would say now I don't have that original pain anymore, but my body just feels more united as one. For many years, I didn't really integrate my left leg. It just was kind of there. My left glute was weaker, less built up, bulky than my right, and my left leg was the one that was not working well. And I would have, during meditation, I would almost feel like this black hole on that side of my body. And I'm like, I just can't sense it or feel my left leg. And then through this work and through kind of reactivated a neuro re-education of some of these muscles in combination with the fascia work, my left leg is part of the program now. I still have to do a little extra work with it, but it's online as it wasn't before. And so that's a little bit kind of a description between the scar tissue involvement versus the fascial matrix, and then also different patterning of the body.
Yeah, because it's got to unlearn what it's learned to cope with something not working, and everything else, you know, building up around it to kind of take its place. And it's interesting you say that, because I've had stuff going on in my left groin recently, and it feels, I thought it was where the quads kind of attach, but it feels, I was studying some muscles the other day, and I don't know which one it was. I couldn't find a diagram with the names on, but it feels like it's going from the hip bone kind of to the pubic, on that diagonal. So I've been trying to find myself a little stretch for that. And I don't know if this is the best way, but what I found is similar to the child's pose one. So have my legs kind of out a little bit like frog. So, you know, my legs are bent and going down quite far, but on all fours, and then coming back. And I'm trying to work out which is the best way to do it, whether I start back and go forwards and kind of like lift my upper body up a bit to stretch, which seems helpful, but also kind of just moving from side to side a little bit. It's a very subtle stretch, but then you can feel things inside just starting to give and to pop, like I mentioned at the beginning. And even at the back of my leg, like you can feel things going deep inside, and everything kind of going, oh, we can like move over here.
Yeah, that's really wonderful. It sounds like you've already hit that point where you, and this is my hope for everyone, but as you start to learn the basics of the work, then it just continues to evolve, and you create and make up your own stuff because of what you're feeling in your body, and you're trying to find ways to reach it. So that's beautiful. I love that. And there's some tricky places to reach for sure. And sometimes you're trying it out and getting on the mat for a few minutes and trying different things. But I definitely have some extra ideas for you for that one.
Yeah, awesome.
My mind's like, oh, she should try this.
And I've been working with my elbow recently as well. And one thing we learn about the body, so pain in the elbow, go higher. It's like, what are my triceps doing? And they've been quite stuck. And then one day, so I kind of moved down, and I'm doing kind of this kind of movement with my arms, and figure of eight seems really helpful. And then just all of a sudden, and it was all the way down here, and then suddenly one of the triceps just kind of went poof, and it felt almost like it just opened up from where it had been stuck. And it almost felt like an explosion. It was this really weird feeling, but it kind of just suddenly moves. But also working on the axilla and making sure that one of my favorite stretches, there are some that I do every day. So you're standing and I can't find the video that you did this one on actually, but I think I've worked out what to do. So you've got your hand like this, and then you're kind of pulling it up, but you're doing it kind of like to this, almost to the side.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I kind of stretch my leg out a little bit as well. So it's really stretching down there, because those are the big spots, aren't they? Like the ribs and an IT band particularly. And I think anything neck, shoulder, a lot of it is the ribs.
Oh, so much the ribs. The ribs are like I eagle eye into people's ribs because there's so many things there. But one of the things that I learned recently, which I thought was fascinating, is during development in utero, your chest, your pecs, and your lats are one until they separate into their separate functions and muscles, but they're one. And so the connection between the pecs, the lats, how your shoulder posture or patterning or movement, mobility, stability is, and then into the neck. The reason I wrote and produced the neck pain course was because of my own challenges with chronic headaches from neck pain. And I had such a history. So after I was in grad school, and my posture and typing and all that kind of stuff is when it began for me. And how many years ago was that now? Long time. I would say 13-ish years ago. My neck headaches would start always in the same place, just lateral of my cervical vertebrae on the left. And then it would go up, tension, headache. And it was triggered not only by stress, posture. I'd have a glass of wine. And it could be enough, depending on that time of the month, too, that would be my trigger, just one. And when they triggered, it was every day for anywhere from 3 to 5 to 7 days, and a couple weeks out of the month. So it was all the time, basically. And even myself, I work with a physical therapist. I see her once a month too. So as I'm my own patient at that point, her hands, her fingers, what she's doing, where she's going, and then what I instinctively did after is kind of where I developed this approach to neck discomfort. And through that, what I found was it was more an issue of my shoulder health, and anatomy, than it was the neck. And when we took control of this got better. And so that's where I find, in the neck pain course, there is some stuff for the neck for sure, and we can do some of them today, but it's really the work nearby, because again, as we've talked about, it's all connected. So most people, their pecs are shortened and very dense, and they're pulling the humeral head forward. The neck, shortened and dense, because we're modern humans. It's really difficult to not have that be a part of it, because our fascia starts to mold us in the positions and postures that we carry ourselves in throughout the day. That's why a gymnast looks like a gymnast and a swimmer looks like a swimmer. And so when working on the lats and the chest, and then re-educating the right muscles to stabilize my shoulder as I'm moving, typing, any of that, over and over again, I have finally gotten to the point where I can't remember my last headache. And that is, to me, such a gift that I take the hamstring pain that I had for so many years over the neck, because when you have a headache, it's your whole entire day is less than optimal when you have a headache the whole time in your waking hours. So that's where I love this connection and thinking of things differently than the normal treatment plans for chronic things. I don't have a problem with my neck. My vertebrae are healthy. My discs are healthy. It was the fascia and the misuse of my shoulder, in a sense, that was causing it. And that's not the case for everyone, but that was just my experience with it. So, but what you're saying about the connections and where you're instinctively moving your body to reach places, I think is just beautiful. That's my hope for everyone in doing this work, is that they make it work for them and what they need in their body. Yeah.
Now there's A question in the comments. I wonder if the stagnant nature of our lives, not running, climbing, and doing hard work often, leads to our fascia falling out of alignment.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the beginning part of it?
So I wonder if the stagnant nature of our lives, so not running, climbing, or doing hard work, often leads to our fascia falling out of alignment.
Yes. 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 But I would also say that if someone's not inclined to be someone who is physically active on a regular basis, but chooses to step into fascia movement, they can still get just as many benefits for what they need in their lifestyle. Even though I seem like I'm very active, like I'm teaching, I'm in videos and stuff, but outside of me doing work on other humans, demonstrating it and doing videos, I am not an active person. I dream to be so, and I'm starting a new program for my heart health coming up, but I still feel so good in my body, and I'm not doing running, I'm not lifting weights and stuff. I'm more toned now, like you were saying too, than I ever was when I was at the gym. And so it's a way to have it functionally work for your body's needs and what you're doing in your life day to day. But yes, it is something that can contribute. Lack of inactivity, going back to the example of how a gymnast looks like a gymnast, if someone is inactive, how they are posturally most often through their day or when they're sleeping at night or how they're sitting on the couch would begin to shape their body in those postures and create those imbalances that could lead to vulnerability, increased risk of injury, and pain and discomfort.
Would you, I wonder if there's more to say, or shall we move? Just checking what I wrote before. Do you want to show some fascia stretches?
Sure, I would love to. Let's do something that's just very tangible for everyone to try, and something somewhere that everyone wants to get to, the traps. Okay, so the traps here. I'm grabbing mine right now, but what can happen with the trap over time is it becomes thicker and denser, and we start to lose the perimeter, the boundaries of it, and it becomes kind of thick, I guess I should say, and tight, and it can pull on the neck. And so many times people are like, "Oh, I just want to get in right here, right, and just get into that muscle," myself included. So let's just do the fascia equation. To start, I'll show you the fascia activation, and then we'll do what I call a fascia hug, where you do a gentle pressure with movement. So let's everyone take their right arm, and we're going to cross it over to the left shoulder. So this contact here is close chain. So we're going to keep that contact there as a foundation, and then just try to settle into proper upper body posture without getting too into it, just making sure that head isn't forward, that it's slightly pulled back, and that the shoulders aren't coming forward, but slightly. I call it retracted. That's my new word. It's rotation and retraction at the same time. And now for the fascia equation, you need to first shorten the area. So everyone's going to lift their elbow up wherever it will go. Don't force it higher than where it wants to go. Make sure the head is still facing forward. Now take your fingertips on your left hand, and you're going to grab at the elbow straight on, like the palm of the hand, and the fingertips on top. That's that closed chain for the brain to know where to push. So your elbow is going to push up into your fingers. So begin with that first, and don't move. And I want you to think about your trap, and I want you to contract the muscle deep inside it where you need it for your body. Keep contracting the trap, but let your arm and hand win, and slowly start to bring the elbow down towards the sternum, making sure the shoulder doesn't come forward, it stays in its home. It doesn't have to be as hard and strong as possible, it just has to be present. Relax to bring it back up. And just, Denise, you went about half an inch higher, so that first rep allows that extra space to begin. Start again, elbow's going to press up, hold it. Think about the trap and where you need to contract. Then ease off just enough that you let your hand overpower the trap and gently draw the elbow down towards your sternum. All the while checking that the shoulder is in its place. You're looking straight forward. Good. Let the shoulder drop down a little bit more at the bottom. Good. We're going to change our pathway on the next one. So relax to bring it up again. Engage your center core. I'm not going to get too specific, but imagine your spine like a flagpole and you're contracting your muscles to help keep it sturdy and strong. Begin again by pressing the elbow up, contract to where you need it. But this time, as you bring your elbow down, you're going to bring it across the body more towards the left chest. And just change your pathway ever so slightly to change where the fascia work is happening. Relax to bring it up. Engage your core and engage your pelvic floor. Engage your abdominals. Elbow presses up, find your spot. Now bring the elbow down and slightly to the right, just a little bit. Let the shoulder blade drop down. Good. I'm going to add another variation here so you can see how it evolves. Let go of the crossover and just bring your arm up like this, anywhere kind of above. Now you're going to take your other hand and you're going to grab same place at the elbow. Now you're resisting your arm kind of up and back, so you're still now reaching into the trap wherever you need it. I call this free trap. And you keep contracting the trap, but now you can choose a million different pathways because your hand is free. You still have a closed chain because your left hand is grabbing your right elbow. So the closed chain is still there, but in a different way. Relax to bring it up. Let's do one more. Change your angle slightly. Resist your elbow. Engage your lats. Shoulder blade gliding down your back. Good. And if it's too hard, ease off your muscle contraction to just make the connection comfortable. Good. And let it relax. Just take a moment, maybe close your eyes. And take an inhale through the nose. And exhale through the nose and just notice what you're feeling in your body. You can make little micro adjustments to let the shoulder fall into place, the head fall into place. Good. And then opening the eyes, let's move to the other side so we can make sure the other side's happy too. First, take your left hand and cross it over. Elbow lifts up, just noticing where you begin, and then bring your other hand up to grab like this. Neutral head and shoulders. Elbow presses up. Hold it here a little longer for the first one. Wait till you feel it in your trap where you need it. And then take the first elbow comes down towards the sternum to begin. Contracting a little if you want more of a neural connection, or a lot if you want to change the fascia a little bit more full-hearted. Relax, bring it up. Notice if it's at a different height than that first rep. Contract, hold it. Good. Keep contracting gently. Guide the elbow down and maybe across the body towards the right. With one shoulder, you might get a couple snaps or some tissue that is passing over a surface. That's just an indication that there's some tightness somewhere or some fascial adhesions. Elbow presses up, and now you're going to bring it down and slightly to the left of the sternum. Drop your left shoulder down, away from the ears, let it follow through. Elbow lifts up, and engage your pelvic floor, your glutes, and your abdominals. Resist the elbow up, hold it for 3, find where you need it 2, keep it on 1. Let the right hand gently guide that elbow down any pathway you need. Good. Let's do a free trap. So open up the arm, grab at the elbow, resisting up and away, and choosing your pathway. Letting your right arm guide the left, drop the shoulder down, bring it straight down across, any which way. Relax one more time, bring it up, last one. Pelvic floor, engage the muscles to support your spine, keep it. Keep checking back in if the muscles are continuously contracting where you need it. And then let that arm relax. Take an inhale and exhale through the nose. One more inhale and exhale. Good. Would you like another one? Do we have time for another one? Yes? Okay.
Please.
Yes, please. Let's go. Which one to do? We did one for the traps. Let's go into the lateral neck. And the reason I like to do this one is because the neck can be finicky, and I think traditional neck stretching can be vulnerable. And so we'll do the fascia way. And the setup is basically the same. Posture first, and then you're looking straight forward. And let's take your left hand, and you're going to come up and grab to the side of your head like this. Make sure that both shoulders are rested as best you can in their joint space. So your head is looking forward. Now we're going to be working the right side of your neck. So the head is going to resist to the right into your left fingertips until you feel it in the right side of your neck. Very light. This is not as hard as you can go. This is just focusing on the direction of resistance and making the connection happen. Keep your chin towards your throat tuck so that your cervical vertebrae is properly aligned, and let your hand gently guide your head over. Try to keep your body where it is and let your head move independently of the body. Now we're going to do a neural re-education here. Double check that the chin didn't slip forward for most human beings. It does, including myself. Now let your head slowly come back up, guiding your hand and head back to center. Let's do it one more time. Resist your head gently to the right. Keep the right shoulder retracted, or what I say, retracted. And keep the chin towards the throat tuck. And again, you're not focusing on going as far as you. If you start to feel a traditional stretch, then just stop. Make sure your muscle's still contracting. And then come back to start again. Good. And then let the hand come down. And switching sides. So bringing your right hand up and over. Fingertips are on the side of the face. Kind of as your skull almost has like the perfect ridge for your fingers to be in. Shoulder blades set. Make sure the ribs are inside the body and not lifting up out of it. Resist to the left. Find the side muscles. Keep the neck in neutral and gently guide the head. You might feel something different here, different story. Just go to where you can. It doesn't have to go very far. It might be a half an inch for some. It might be no movement for some, and for some it might be a lot. And then let the head wind to come back to center. Good. Let's start again one more time. Light resistance to the left. Feel the left side of your neck gently. Keep your chin towards your throat. Beautiful. And then let the head bring you back up. Good. Keep your head in center and bring your hands back behind your head. So intertwine the hands, fingers like this. Chin to the throat tuck. And it's a little, when you do a chin tuck, it's not down or up, but back with a little lift of the skull to get a little length through the back of the head. You're going to gently look up and shorten the muscles in the back of your neck that run up and down alongside your spine. Head is going to press lightly back into your hands. And then your hands are going to overpower and gently start to bring the head forward. Keep drawing the chin towards the back of the throat to keep that alignment safe. And don't worry about going as far as you can. Keep going with your connection. That's the main part. Good. And then chin tuck. Let the head bring you back up. Strong in your upper body. Breath is moving as you need. One more time. Head presses back lightly. Kind of lifting up and then forward. Keep adjusting the chin tuck. If for some reason this does not feel good for you, then discontinue and watch. Head will come back up, stacking one vertebrae on top of the other until you come back up to center. Good. Shoulders, hands relaxed. Shoulders roll up and back. You might get a couple cracks out of that one. Adjustments, moving them around, and then just come to settle with your head here in neutral. Okay, and I'll show you what I call the fascia hug now for the trap. So back to the trap. I like this one because you can see it here. So back to the trap. I'm grabbing it just to identify it. And I have my thumb right here, and I'm going to replace my thumb with my fingers like this. Now it's best to start this one with your head slightly forward to relax all of the tissues in the front. And your hands are basically kind of pushing lightly. You're not trying to push into muscle with this work. It's really kind of finding a happy medium between the surface of the skin and the muscle, that in between point. So it's more about that space of pressure, and you're pushing back with your fingertips. So almost like you're trying to push your trap behind you. Once you have that, you're going to move your head gently in the opposite direction. So you're pinning and hugging the fascia and the muscle tissue, and then you create movement. And then relax to come back. So you still do reps, but your pace is completely up to you, and your distance is up to you. So you start the same way. You kind of pin and hug the trap like you're pushing it back, and then begin to slowly move the head, whether you tilt the ear away, whether you lift your chin up, whether you look over your shoulder or down. It's really endless the way you can move your head, and it's kind of instinctual. You might feel a pull up behind the ear. You might feel it up into the back of the head, lower part of the skull. And then you can move your hand out a little bit. So I just started right here. You can start to go kind of the parameters further out towards the shoulder. Practice, I felt that one. Practice that. And then of course you can move closer to the neck. You're just finding that front border of the trap, and you're just giving it a little nudge back, and then the movement of the head. And then we can try the other side too. Let it relax. And then you'll move to the other one. So you find your trap, replace it with the fingers, soften the head forward and down, gentle push back of the trap, and noticing the differences on this side. Moving the head in the opposite direction. So for me, this trap, I kind of lose my border, and I have to go slightly in front of it. And those are the things that you can start to learn and acquire from this work. So I'm going to change my hand position. I often talk about this work because it becomes very intuitive in how you adjust the work for your own body. For example, when you're getting a massage, and the massage therapist is working somewhere, and in your mind you're like, oh, I hope he goes a millimeter north, or just an inch to the west. You know, that you can feel it. You're like, oh, it's almost there. It's not quite there, but you're knowing that you're close. That's what this work is about. And no matter how you're doing it, fascia hugs or activations, it's like that knowing, that calling, that craving to reach this place within the body that is very difficult to reach by someone else's hands, a tool, a ball, but from the inside out. And then we can move those shoulders around a little bit and just see if there's some new freedom. There might be some different sensations that are happening because we're in the neck. There's a lot of nerves. So everyone could feel something slightly different from what we just did now. Yeah.
I love those. I really I've been doing that in my neck a little bit as well, just kind of either applying a little bit of pressure or almost kind of pulling it down a little bit, and then, just finding where you might only move your head just slightly. Mm-hmm. And then you can feel, like I noticed it both sides actually, it'll clunk and almost like suddenly move a lot because it just gets that movement.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Wonderful job. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I just love doing this work. That's why I do it so much. I could spend all day working on different parts because your body just feels so incredibly good afterwards.
Yeah. I like to give the example when I'm teaching someone about it in the beginning, because it has pain receptors in it. So oftentimes when we feel pain, we've always kind of thought it was, oh, there's a knot in my muscle or something like that. Well, we have pain receptors in our fascia. So just like when we take let's say if someone takes an anti-inflammatory or plant medicine to reach some area of pain, and how the body is so magnificent that it takes it to that pain, that inflammation, that area. And this is very much like that too. So if someone has a headache or a trap that's tight, you can spot treat, because the pain will diminish, at least to a certain point, because you're working with the fascia and the pain receptors in that particular area. The cause of the pain being here, almost always, unless there's an injury or surgical site or specific scar tissue, it's probably coming from somewhere else. Mm. And so it can help in the moment, but then the evolution of that pain being a chronic area most likely would be benefited from working the body in other areas too. Mm-hmm.
Now, you mentioned plants there. You also love working with plants, don't you?
Yeah. I think as my fascia work evolved, I started to just open my eyes a little bit more to my body, what I was feeling, mindfulness. And I had one of those, just like I had a healing moment with my scar tissue changing with this work, I had a moment where my daughter had fallen and split her chin. She was 2. And just not 5 minutes before, my friend had come over, and I didn't know this, but she's an herbalist. And she said, oh, I have yarrow balm. Do you want me to go home and get it? I'm like, I don't know what that is. But she's like, well, it's a plant that I make a balm out of, and it helps to, it's like a natural suture. It helps to pull the tissues together from the inside out and pulls infection out at the same time. I'm like, bring it over, sure. So she had studied for 7 years and had all this knowledge, and it just happened that she was there that one moment where my daughter split her chin. So we treated it with the yarrow balm, and I could not believe it. We never did the stitch. We didn't get the shot. We didn't get the medical bill for it. And I'm not saying that everyone should do this, but that was what prompted me to start to learn about plants. And so we have a family farm about 2 hours from Minneapolis, in this beautiful part of Wisconsin. And I started opening my eyes to plants, and I started learning, and I got books. And so my passion intertwines with fascia, but I make my own balms out of things that I foraged from natural areas, that my backyard and at the farm. And then I have just jars everywhere of dried plant material and dried stuff everywhere. So my son and daughter got these violets from my backyard 2 days ago. So I'm just letting them to dry out and put them in a jar, and when I'm ready, I make a balm out of them. Yeah, but I'm a student here too. Lots to learn.
It's amazing though. The plants have so much to teach us. Plantain is my favorite one here, because it's just everywhere, and it's an incredibly versatile plant, and it really works.
Yes.
You know, I've given it to people. I've been like, just rub that leaf on it, and they're like, yeah, right. And then they'll do it, and then after a minute they're like, oh, it stopped itching. Yeah. Or nettle stings or whatever. It's incredible.
Nettles are so darn healthy, and they're amazing. I make nettle tea, and I cook with nettles. Be so careful when you're harvesting them. But if I do get stung by the nettles, I grab my yarrow, plantain, or violet balm, any of the above, put it on, and about an hour later, it's gone. So cool.
Will you be doing videos on how to make balms?
I actually post them mostly to my stories on my Instagram Fascia Fix account, because I think if I got too much into it, I would be a little overwhelmed. So right now it's just for my enjoyment and to balance out my brain from my fascia teachings and bodywork stuff. And so maybe down the road, I actually just bought some CBD hemp flower, and I'm going to try to make my own balm that I'll use in my treatments, in-person treatments too. So yeah, we'll see where it goes, but it's something that brings me a lot of joy, and it puts me in nature, and instantly I feel better than when I'm doing that.
I'm partway through filming myself doing the plantain balm, and mine's going to be with something in the title like with more than a pinch of, I'm not sure whether to say with more than a pinch of chi, with more than a pinch of woo-woo, because I've got quartz crystals in with my plantain, my dried plantain at the moment. And yeah, that's at the minute where my passion is. It's connecting with the energy of the land, connecting with the energy of the plants. So I'm feeling quite a few things coming out of that.
That's wonderful. I'll have to talk with you about some of the crystal stuff, because I would love to have some of that incorporated into my space and when I'm doing treatments like that.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah, yeah.
So where can people, where can, just looking at some of the comments. So there is a question, do you meditate?
I do, not on a regular basis. But yeah, I do. And but I've recently have become interested in diving a little bit more into the practice of breath work. And I'm currently reading the book Breath by James Nestor, and I am completely blown away by it. In all of my studies and education, this one is really, really hitting home for me. And so I think with my focus on breath work, kind of ties in with meditation for me a little bit as I'm learning. But yes, I do. I would like to more, and I'm going to incorporate some more learning and hopefully teaching too of the breath work as well.
Nice. And someone, Christine, who actually was a nurse at the hospital when I was a nurse. She was not quite a colleague, but I introduced Reiki to the hospital, and she learned Reiki with me and came to the Reiki shares that we did. And she says, I love the practice we have just done. I can feel it working already. It's amazing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That's wonderful.
So how can people get hold of you?
I'm in a couple different places. I'm most active on my Instagram account, which is at Fascia Fix MN, which stands for Minnesota. And that's where majority of my stuff is. It's my home for most of things, and that will then automatically go to Facebook, although I'm not as active with that. I do have some people helping me with messages and stuff. And then I have a YouTube account, which is more turning into a little mini live stream. It's shifting a little bit right now because I'm currently building out and have quite a bit of content in my Patreon account. So my Patreon account is basically what a subscription would be. And so each week I add content there, and I do longer form classes there. So I have a bunch of 45-minute classes. If people wanted to sample them, they can reach out to me too, and I can give them the information with that. But twice a month I teach a 45-minute class. I incorporate a lot of postural education teaching, how to set up proper deep core, to like we did with engaging the pelvic floor when we did this. And then everything from TMJ. I've been working with the jaw this week, and next week is face and ears. So every week is a different focus, and that can be found on Instagram. And then longer form classes are on my Patreon account. And all of those are linked in my bio on my Instagram. And then my general website is changing over. So if there's any hiccups, and then if anyone's looking, the copy, everything's kind of changing right now a little bit in terms of putting information of new places to find me and things like that. But that's fascia-fix.com. So yeah, a lot of different options. I do virtual sessions, so I work with people all over the world, and it's just wonderful, and it works so well because as we just experienced here, when I teach people to do it themselves, there's such an intuitive approach to it, and so so many things. Whatever you want, I'm here for you, and but those are some of the best ways to reach me.
And even just Googling Erin Tietz fascia and everything comes up. And I do really recommend the, I feel like I'm sinking into the chair here. I do recommend the one-on-one, well, everything, the courses that you can find or the one-on-ones. It's all been really helpful to me. And yeah, just to say as well that it is, when you're doing the fascia stretching, it really is like a meditation. It's very, you're very mindful of how your body is, and you can really learn to tune into the subtleties of the body and the subtleties of very small movements too. So yeah, it is like a kind of moving meditation.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much too for having me. It's just been such a joy to be here. And the one thing I was going to say, I haven't populated this yet, but if anyone is interested in taking any of the courses from my website, I have the 5-day Fascia Fix, which is a shorter 5-day introduction to the work. Each video is about 10 minutes. and then the neck course as well. I can populate a code for your listeners too that I can share with you, and they can reach out to me directly, and I'd be happy to give them 20% off those courses.
Oh, thank you.
Do that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. It's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you to everybody who's been with us as well. And yeah, thank you. We will see you next week. Love, love, love.